Alright, my name is Nate Jones, and this is my constellation project on Ursa Major. Alright, looking at the night sky, presenting ourselves in the north at the end of September at 5:25 a.m. Now don't worry, you don't have to be up that late to see this particular wonderful example of a constellation in the night sky. It is a circumpolar constellation, so that means it can be seen year-round. Now, the sharp-eyed out there may have noticed a familiar shape in the night sky. Yes, it is the Big Dipper. Now, this is the easiest way to find Ursa Major is by locating the Big Dipper in the night sky. Don't worry if you're not able to find the Big Dipper. Simply look for the North Star and then make your way down. You will find the Big Dipper from there. Now, the shape of the bear might not be apparent to everyone who's looking at this right now, straining their eyes trying to find the bear. But starting at the tail of the bear, moving our way up, you have the nose of the bear. Moving down, you have the four front paws. Coming over here, you have the rear legs of the bear, and voila, there she goes. She appears right there. It's outstanding. Okay, moving on to the brightest stars located in, well, the Big Dipper, because it is the most prominent object within the constellation of Ursa Major. It is going to have the most prominent stars in it. Starting with the first star, A, located in the center portion of the bear's tail, Aloth, represented by the Greek letter epsilon, has a magnitude of 1.75, located 80.93 light-years away from Earth, with a spectral type of AOV PSISR. Its evolutionary stage is main sequence, meaning it's still burning that hydrogen fuel. It has a radial velocity of negative 9.3 kilometers a second. Our next star, B, located in the back of the bear, is Dubhe, with the Greek letter alpha, with a magnitude of 1.82 and an impressive 123.6 light-years away from Earth, with a spectral type of KO3A, an evolutionary stage of helium-fusing giant, meaning it has run out of all of its hydrogen fuel and is now working on that helium. Alright, our next one, Alkaid, represented by the Greek letter Ent, with a magnitude of 1.86. It is located 100.70 light-years away from Earth with a spectral type of B35. Evolutionary stage main sequence with a radial velocity of negative 13.4 kilometers a second. Our final star, being D, is the Mazar star, represented by the Greek letter Zeta, with a magnitude of 2.22. It is 78.16 light-years away from Earth with a spectral type of A1b PSRSI. Evolutionary stage main sequence. Radial velocity is negative 5.6 kilometers a second. Okay, moving on to our next slide. Deep space objects. Now, our deep space objects include M79, the Owl Nebula. This impressive-looking nebula is often known as the Owl Nebula due to the fact that it looks like an owl's eye. Now, the reason it looks like an owl's eye is due to the way that this nebula was formed, as it is the gaseous atmosphere of a star being blown off, leaving the remnants behind of a white dwarf located in the center there. Moving on to our next object, M82, Cigar Galaxy. The Cigar Galaxy is an edge-on starburst galaxy, very impressive looking, very beautiful galaxy. It is approximately 11 million miles away from Earth. Moving on to this next object, M81 Bogues Galaxy is a spiral-armed galaxy located 11 million miles away from Earth, with good separation between the arms. M101 Pinwheel Galaxy. This galaxy is located an impressive 20 million light-years away from Earth, and is also another spiral galaxy with good separation in the arms. Alright, moving on to our next slide, Ursa Major. Now, this mythology slide was pretty interesting for me to put together. It was also quite difficult due to the fact of the numerous amounts of mythology surrounding this particular constellation. Now, let's just highlight this real quick, and we'll go over some facts about this particular constellation. It is one of the oldest constellations in the night sky. It is also the third largest. This constellation has been known to many, many different cultures, including Chinese, Roman, Greek, Native American, Arab, and many others. The Brits actually know this night star is a famous king you may have heard of. It is known as Arthur. Now, the legend goes that Arthur's name was a Welsh translation for the word bear. When Arthur died, they say that his spirit went up into the night sky to protect him. Thus, the bear, Ursa Major, is always watching over England due to the fact that it's a circumpolar constellation. That's an interesting one, I thought anyway. The Chinese worship this particular constellation of stars and put it on many coins, ornamental figures, and sculptures. Additionally, the Romans, they have their own story about this star, and with the Romans, of course, it is about godly love, how their godly figures would come down and they'd have forbidden love, and then Zeus would put an end to it. That's pretty much how that story with them goes. The one that I'm going to talk about the most, though, is going to be the Native American stories about this particular constellations, as I see it's the most fitting for our location in the world. So the Native Americans actually use this constellation to explain many of the natural phenomenon that they would see in the world around them, to include, but not limited to, hibernation of bears and why the leaves turn red in the fall. Now, the one that I thought was pretty interesting was that last one, why the leaves turn red in the fall. Now, this bear has a tail, which I thought was a little odd, and it is. Even the Native Americans say that that's odd, and they actually say that these stars in the back of the bear are hunters chasing it. So as these hunters are hunting and chasing this bear, they actually manage to wound it. And then this bear gets wounded, it actually bleeds on the earth, causing the leaves to turn red. The other story the Native Americans had for it was when the bear complained to the gods, stating that it was cold. And so the gods taught the bear how to hibernate. And so the motion of this star, or this constellation around the northern star, explains that as the bear moved to the north, that was the bear being out of hibernation, as it was to the top of the northern star. And as it moved down south, under the northern star, that was the bear hibernating. And the bear, Ursa Major, came down and taught the other bears how to hibernate. And that's pretty much the end of the mythology section of this slide. I thought that there was a lot of interesting stories. The ones that I selected I thought were the most interesting. Moving on to resources, deep space objects. For the majority of my deep space objects, I use nasa.gov. For the exception of M79, I use masorobjects.com. For my mythology, I use constellationguides.com. Alright, I'd just like to thank everyone for their time and for putting up with my stammering and stuttering while doing this presentation. I look forward to hearing your responses for the questions that I post.